Daf Chaf Vav Amud Beis will begin Chaf Vav Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. Continue on with the Machlokes Abaye and Rava and Rav Yehuda, and Rava holds that Rav Yehuda holds that Dover Shi Efshar Mechaven is also as opposed to Abaye. Tashma Rava brings a rhyme from the following brisa that Rav Yehuda holds that Efshar Mechaven is also not like Abaye. Tashma, the brisa says the following: Ichnisa l'Rivka, if one attached the calf, the egla rufa, the calf that was supposed to be used for an egla rufa. Now, the egla rufa, work cannot be done with that animal. He attached it to the team of animals. The purpose of it is that the calf should nurse from its mother, which was part of that team. So he hitched it up to the calf to the team rather, vidasha, and it threshed, the calf threshed together with the rest of the animals. Nevertheless, kshera, it's still kosher to be used for negla rufa. But bishul shetinuk v'taldush, if he did it, the purpose was not only for the egla rufa, not only for the egla to nurse, but also to do the threshing, then psula, then it's psula. Now, over here, there is the yasher. It's unavoidable because the calf has to nurse from the mother. But if he's mechaven, nevertheless, he's mechaven, that uktani psula, and the brisa says it's possible. So don't you see clearly that yasher mechaven is also? More answers: no, it's not a rule. It's not a proof because shayni hasam over there by the case of egla roof, it's different. It says that work was not done with it. So it says that in the passive form, lo ubad, not loy ovid, not that you didn't do work with it. Work was not done, even if it's done in memela. In any event, if it's mikol makam, in any event, in any way which is done, even if it's in the case of efshar, it's still awesome. If that's the case, well, if that's the case, even in the ratio where he had no kavanah, what's the difference? If you're saying mikol makam, asher lo yubad ba mikol makam, well, work was done, whether he's mechaven or not. More answers no. This is only compared to the following. It says in Lagabi Paraduma, it says in the Mishnah Lagabi Paraduma, which similarly, that it cannot have work done with it. That even though it says that loy all, but we learn out from Exer Shava, from Egala Rufa, that any work is also with it. So therefore, it has the similar criteria. Now it says the Gavi Pora Duma Shachen Ela Oif, if a bird rested on it, kshera. Nevertheless, it's still kosher. All Zachar, but if a Zachar was mating with it and it was all it climbed on top of it, then psula. Then it is possible. So my time. Well, in both cases, you have that there is a bird or an animal that's resting on top of the animal, and by the bird we say it's kosher, and by the zachar we say it's possible. So my time, what's the chiluk? Amar Papa iksiv avad v'karinan avad. If it had written avad and we would pronounce it avad, therefore we would say adava ba'iyu. It means what avad, he worked it, but only if he did the action. So I would have said, therefore, that it's only possible, David Bayu, only if he did it, if the owner himself works with it. But it doesn't say that. Now, Iksiv, Ubad, Vakarin, Ubad, if it's both in the passive, it was written Ubad, and we pronounce it Uban, which means in the passive. So we say of him a Melanami, even if he didn't do it, even if it happened on its own, without any of his involvement. Then I would say that it's possible in both cases. But but over here, the ksiv rather is of it, but the kri is ubad. So we therefore say it's not possible only if he does it completely himself, and it's not possible if he has no involvement with it. Therefore, we say ubad dumya Dovid. The uvad is dumya Dovid, similar to the case where he does it himself. Just like when he does it, it's something that's pleasing to him. He's doing it. Must be that's something he wants to do. But also is the so it's done passively, where he does not do it. It happens on its own, but it's also only if then nichale, if he wants it. So if the bird rests upon the animal, he has no benefit from it. The owner doesn't want it, doesn't care for that. Therefore, it remains to be kosher. But if it's ola zocher, where mating is something where the owner would get a benefit from it, therefore it's also. So we see this chilik that's mentioned by Paraduma. We can apply the same chilik over here to Egla Rufa. So therefore, in the case where it's Yafshar, where the person is mechaven, well, if he's mechaven for it, then it'll be also, because in this case it's also because he doesn't have to do the action, but he has to be nichas. So therefore, if in the case where it is something which he wants to do, which he wants it to happen rather, therefore we say, so if his kavana is shetinak v'tidash, by the case of the Egla Rufa, he wants it, he has a benefit from it, then it's also. But if it's no intention for him, he has no intention for it to do the dishes, to do the threshing, it's only shetinak, so therefore it's not any involvement or any interest that he has in it. It's like karina bay of it. It's not as if he did it at all, and therefore it's mutter. Taisa says we could say the same chilik even with without coming out to the Mishnah by Paraduma. We're making a chilik, and we're saying over here we're making this chilik between that nichale and loy nichale, ovad and uvad. So we really didn't have to come on to the Mishnah in Paraduma. We could have said this chilik right here by Egla Rufa, but Taisa says because Rav Papa mentioned this, and he said this pshat in the case of the Paravaduma, and it's also a Mishnah, not only a Brisa. That's why we bring this Brisa, we bring this Mishnah of Paravaduma. Tashma, let's bring a ride from the following. Aveda, if a person finds an Aveda, so he is responsible to take care of it. Lo yishtachan al gabi mita, he should not spread. If it's a garment, he should not spread it over a bed, and not over a peg, if he wants it for his own needs. If he wants to use it to spread it out, to make his house look nice, to make it like a tapestry, or to make it like a bedspread or something like that, and he's using it for his own purpose, then it's also, he can't do it. But if it's for the benefit of the garment, to spread it out, to air it out, then it's mutter. But if he has gas, then but if he has gas, and now if he spreads this out, then the gas presumably be oppressed and make his house look nice, even if his intent is only for the benefit of the garment, and to air it out, etc. But nevertheless, he still should not do it, because inevitably he'll get a benefit that it'll be showed and displayed to his guests, and that'll be something that'll make his house look impressive. So we see in such a case, then it's also ben l'tzorcha ben tzorcha. So what do we see over here? We see that it's esher. It's esher. If he's not mechaven, it's mutter. If it's mechaven, it's also. So don't you see a rai over here, like Rava, not like Abaya? The Gemara answers, no, shiny hasam. The difference over there is, it's not because of his kavanah or not kavanah. If there are guests and he's spreading it out in front of the guests, shiny hasam, the kolale, he's going to literally burn it. He's going to destroy it. He's going to cause a damage to the lost item. Why is that? Either it's because of an ayin hara, the guests will see that he has this nice thing over there, they'll give an ayin hara, and that will cause the item to be damaged. Ganovim will come to see that there's something expensive, something nice in this person's house, and it will motivate them to come and steal it, so it will cause a loss for this object. That's why he can't do it. But otherwise, we don't say perhaps we will not say that his kavana is the factor. Tashma, let's bring a rhyme from the following. People who sell garments, they can sell it in the usual way, in the usual manner that they sell it. And even if the garment has shatnez in it, they are still allowed to sell it in the normal way, and which means that they can wear it to show it, to demonstrate it. They can still wear it in that way, and because he's not wearing it for personal enjoyment, he's not wearing it for getting warmth from the beged, and therefore he can sell it in the normal manner. So long as he does not have an intent to get personal benefit from the kilayim, from the shatnez. That means in the summer not to wear it to provide some shade from the sun, or in the rainy season, the winter, not to get warmth from the cold. But the tznuim, the ones who are very diligent and the ones who are very, very haredim ala mitzvahs, then they don't want to take any chances with that. They take a stick and they put it over and hang it on a stick over the shoulders and not to wear it, so that they don't come to perhaps getting hanoah from the shatnez. Now, this is a case of efshar. Then they have to sell the garments, but they don't have to wear it. They can put it on a stick just like the tznuim. And nevertheless, the ones who aren't snuim, they're allowed to wear it as long as they don't have kavanah. So you see that even though there is an alternative, it's efshar, but as long as it's not mechaven, it's mutter. So you see over here that something which is efshar, v'loy mechaven, he's not mechaven, it's mutter. Now this is clearly not going according to Rabbi Yehuda. This would be perhaps going according to Rav Shimon, who says Dar Shem Eskaven is mutter. Now let us bring a raya from here that Rav Shimon holds that it's when he's not mechaven, even if it's efshar, it's mutter. So tiyufta laman demasla lishna kama the Rava. This is a kasha on the one who learned in the first approach of Rava, who said that Rabbi Shimon held, even though he held Davar Shem Eskaven is mutter, but if it's efshar, he would hold it's also. You see here clearly not that way, that according to Rabbi Shimon, that as long as he's not mechaven, even if it is efshar, even if he has an alternative, it's still mutter. So it's a tiyufta to the Lishna Kama, the Rava in Rav Shimon. So that concludes this discussion of Davar Shem Eskaven, efshar lo efshar. That concludes this segment of this discussion of this sugya. The Gemara continues, "V'lo yasik boy," and you cannot use the chametz, which is also ba'ano, to fire an oven, to fire a kira or a tanner. Ton rabbanon, we learned in the brayso, tanner shesika beklipe orla, a tanner, an oven that was heated up, that was fired with peels of orla. Orla is also ba'ano, the fruit of the first 3 years of the tree. His orla is also ba'ano. If he used it to heat up the oven, or with the straw of kalayim of kerem, which is also ba'ano, chaldash yutas. If the oven was new and it was heated up, it was fired up with the isur hana, it has to be broken. It has to be shattered. What's the pshat? A new oven, the heating of the oven, now that hardens it. So that completes the oven. So we say that the oven now has been completed with Isser Hana, and therefore it's as if the Isser Hana is in the oven. It's part and parcel of the oven. So therefore, using the oven would be using something which is also Hana. Since it was completed with the Isser Hana, it's as if the Isser Hana is part and parcel of the oven, and therefore the oven becomes also Hana. So therefore, chadash, if it was new, yutas. Yashan, but if it's an old oven, yutsan. It just has to be cooled off. Because once it's an old oven, it's already hardened. Therefore, the firing up of the oven with the Isra Hana is not completing the oven. So you can't get benefit from the heat. So you have to let it cool down. But the oven now, subsequently, can be used. If you bake bread in it while it still had the wood of the Isra Hana, so the wood of the Isra Hana, or the klipim of the Isra Hana, the peels, or the straw of the Isra Hana, if it was still there, then Alpha Bois a pas, Rebbe Amar a pas asur. Rebbe says the pas is asur. You can't use the pas. So similarly, just like we said by the oven, that the oven is considered to contain the Isra Hana, that we said that it's the yesh shvach eitzim, the benefit of the eitzim is in the oven, yesh shvach eitzim b'pas, so the pas is asur. But the Chacham say no, the pas is muteres. Meaning on this concept, of where we say that the Isra Hana is contained in the item itself, Chacham argue with that. And therefore they would argue on the oven as well. They would say that the oven does not have to be shattered, because even though it was heated with Isra Hana, and even if it was completed with Isra Hana, but the Isra Hana is no longer present. So that's what the Chacham argue. Rebbe says, Yesh v'acheitzim b'pas. Rebbe says that therefore the tanner has to be shattered. The Chacham say, Ein shvacheitzim b'pas. We don't consider it like the Isra Hana is part and parcel of the pas, and it's not part and parcel of the oven. So therefore the pas is muter, and the oven is muter. But Rebbe holds that Yesh v'acheitzim b'pas. There's machlekes in the Pesachim. Is this an Isser d'oraisa or an Isser d'Rabbanan? Is it something that the Rabbanan also, or is it even Minatzer? Shitas Hari and Taisus holds that it is a d'Rabbanan. Taisus Rash holds it d'oraisa. But this is machlekes if we say that the Yesh v'acheitzim b'pas or b'taner or not. Now the Brisa continues Bishla gabi gecholim, but if it was cooked over coals, dira kol muter. Everyone agrees that it's muter. Everyone agrees in such a case as muter. Meaning, underlying this is that something which is osir b'hana, once it's burnt, then the ashes are muter. Therefore, minatayra, the ashes are muter. If you already baked it on coals, then the pas is muter, because you baked it on something which is no longer osir b'hana. Then therefore it'll be muter. So the case that we were talking about before, when we said that the tanner has to be shattered or the pas is asur according to Rebbe, as we mentioned, it's not talking about coals. It's talking about that the klipim or the straw is intact. It's intact over there. And now in the process of burning it bakes the bread or it fires up the oven. But if it's already been reduced to coals or to ash, then it would not asur. Now the lashon is bishla agabe gecholim. If he cooked it over bread, Taisus medayek, that's mashma b'di'evet. B'di'evet it's muter. Lichatchila midrabanan would be also until the point where it's actually reduced to ashes. Where it's ashes, then it's muter. But if it's still in the coal stage, then even though midoraisa it's muter, midrabanan it's also. That's why he uses the lashon b'di'evet. Lichatchila it's also, but b'di'evet it's muter. We learned in a different brisa. It says yutzan. It says in a different brisa that whether the oven is old or whether it's new, it does not become osir b'hana. It does not have to be shattered. It just has to be cooled off. It seems to be a steer in the brises. The Gemara says like kasha. Ha Rebbe ha Rabbanan. It's machloikas Rebbe and Rabbanan. Now we saw that Rebbe holds yesh v'acheitzim b'pas. So just like he says, Yesh v'acheitzim b'pas, that we look at the Isra Hana as part and parcel of the pas, and therefore the pas is asura, it's also b'hana. Well, similarly, you'd say that Yesh v'acheitzim b'taner, and therefore the Isra Hana is part and parcel of the taner and has to be broken. But according to the Chomim, who say, they argue and they say Ein v'acheitzim b'pas. Similarly, Ein v'acheitzim b'taner. And therefore, the Isra Hana is not part and parcel of the tanner. It does not have to be broken. So, Ha Rebbe V'Rabban, frag the Gemara. No, he had the Shamad Leila Rebbe. Where do we see that where Rebbe holds? What do we see that he holds? Mishum de Yesh v'acheitzim b'pas. Why does he say that the bread is also? Because Yesh v'acheitzim b'pas. But to say that the oven has to be broken is taking it to a different level. It also would be based on a premise of that if you have two things that bring about the creation of an item, they have one which is also and one which is muter. We say, nevertheless, even though it's not been brought into being totally by the Isra Hana, it's with a combination of something which is also and something which is muter, nevertheless, we say it's also. Where do we see that Rebbe holds Zev Zeh Goyrem is also? We don't see that he says that. We see that he says that the pas is also. So what is the pas? Now, if you hold ye shvach eitzim bepas, that means that the shvach eitzim is part and parcel of the pas. That means that by eating the pas or getting hanof from the pas, you're getting hanof from the eitzim itself. So that's why he holds it's aser. But if to say that the tanur is aser, what does that mean? That means is that the tanur is the isra is part of the tanur. Now, if you use subsequently, if you heat something else in the tanur, you use fuel which is mutter, and you bake the bread in it, then to say that the bread is aser is going to be rest on the premise that, well, it's aser because it came into being through the oven, which is aser, through the heat of the oven, which is mutter. Well, the bread should only be aser if the old zev zeh geirim is aser. But if zev zeh geirim is mutter, the bread came into being, got baked. As a result, the benefit that came from it is not totally because of the oven. It's a combination of the oven and the new fuel that you're going to use. So it's the oven only contributed to it, but it's not totally based on the oven. Where do we see that Rebbe says zev zeh geirim is aser? Where do we see if you have two contributing factors, one which is aser, one which is mutter, that he holds that the result is aser? The fact that he says that by the bread that's baked in the oven, you don't see that zev zeh geirim is aser because he holds yesh shvach eitzim pas, and it's as if the isra no is part and parcel of the pas. But where do we see that he says yesh zev zeh geirim is aser? In order to say that the tanur is yutas, it would have to be based on that premise. Ella loy kasha, the Gemara says in Chanami, we don't see this necessarily from Rebbe, but Ella loy kasha ha Rabbi Eliezer ha Rabbanan. We see it from the following shita of Rabbi Eliezer that he does hold that zev zeh geirim is aser, and the brisa that says yutas is based on the shita of Rabbi Eliezer, which we'll see in the upcoming shir.